And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Corrupted Kingdoms, which you can see here has kind of a cool box cover with a puppet master behind us. And this game takes place in a fantasy kingdom, and players are behind the scenes trying to control votes and who does what. And the game, actually, that theme really intrigues me. I've always liked these games where you're a puppet master behind the scenes and you're voting on different laws that come into play. Let's see how it looks. You're going to put out a certain number of kingdom boards and senate boards based on the number of players. So, each of these senate boards are different senators. They have different kinds of creatures that are going to influence them. Different of these guys have different guilty pleasures that they like. And these kingdoms are where a lot of the voting is going to happen. There is a deck of guilty pleasure cards over here. Anything from manatee back bacon to let's see, one here, the wondrous gears of time. And so there's all sorts of different things going on in the game. Each player is going to take a faction, a political faction, and that faction is from the Bricklers Club and the Draco Bank Limited, Gretchen and Gretchen. This one's my favorite. Mainline Medical, Turkensunder, General Eclectic. And so you're going to take this, you're going to take a bunch of cubes of your color. So let's say you're the dragons, and then you get your cubes here. This is where you're going to keep different minions you get. There's 4 types of minions. There's demons and zombies and goblins and things. And over here is where you're going to put these different tiles that you get, and these are going to represent laws that you helped bring into play. On a player's turn, they have 2 actions that they can take. One of those actions can be taking a favor. These tiles here are favors. There's a certain number of them in the game. When they're gone, that's one of the ways that the game end will trigger. When you take a favor, you have 2 things that you can do with it. You can discard the favor and take the 2 creatures that it shows on here. So this one shows 2 zombies. So I could just discard this and take 2 zombies and add them to my board. Or I can take this favor and try to influence a law that I like to come into play. So here we have the cogwheel trade rule or battlefield dress code. Each kingdom has different laws, so you simply stick this underneath that law, and then on top of that you put a cube of your color to show that that is what you are doing. You are trying to get involved in there. So you're going to place it anywhere underneath there, and there can be multiple favors underneath any bill with different cubes on each or the same cubes on them. And when you put it out, the rules say you can name the bill and say what kind of bill it is. Another thing you can do is you can influence a leader. There are lots of different leaders on the board. Some of them are in a kingdom and some of them are in the Senate. When you influence a leader, you simply pay the minions that it shows for that leader. So this one here needs a goblin and a demon. If I pay those, I put a cube there to show that I control that leader. Now, it's possible if someone else wants to steal that, they can do so. They just have to pay those 2, plus perhaps 1 more. As the game goes by, you will be getting guilty pleasures. For example, the manatee back bacon. You see this symbol here. This is a guilty pleasure that this guy likes. So if I have this, I can pay 1 less minion to take that spot from him. And in fact, I can even pay 2 less minions if I have 2 of that guy's guilty pleasure that he wants. So you can influence leaders. Now, you'll notice that there's no tokens here at the top. This is the leader of the kingdom. When you control a leader, the most leaders in an area, you will control that guy at the top, but people can take that away from you. If they control more leaders, then you control basically the person who runs that kingdom. Senate does not have these. Senate works on all bills, and so each Senate leader, you can place different markers on them. So you can take a leader, you can steal a leader, and then the monarch, the person up here, is going to go to whoever controls the most leaders down below. Finally, the last action is you can call a vote. There's going to be different bills that are going to be below the board here, and you can call a vote on one of those bills as long as you control any leader in this kingdom. So even though red and purple don't have any really kind of stake in this vote here, they can still call it. Now, let's say this one's down here and purple does have, or let's say red has a stake here. If there's any leader, when this happens, every leader in that kingdom is going to vote. The other kingdoms are not involved in that vote. Each player has 2 tokens, and they're going to be voting yes or no on the different thing. But you're only going to vote if you have leaders involved in this. So any leader here in the kingdom, any leader who has no influence on them is going to vote for anybody who matches it. So for example, black here on the flag matches her slot, so black's vote is going to go for her. Also, the Senate, they can vote, they always vote in each kingdom. So when you're putting out the different influence tokens, you have to decide, do you want to put in the Senate? Because the Senate's great, because they vote and votes on all 3 kingdoms here. This is a 5-player game setup, by the way. But if you put it on the kingdom, not only do you have a chance of controlling the monarch, but you can't even call a vote unless you have somebody in the kingdom. So once the vote happens, you're going to tally up the votes. And if it fails, then these tokens just go away and the vote fails. If it ties, they would stay there, nothing happens. But if it wins, each person who put one of these tokens out is going to get to keep that token on their sheet. And each of those people is going to pick one of the favor cards over here, or the guilty pleasure cards. Now, why are players doing these? Well, first of all, these are worth points at the end of the game. These cards are going to be worth points for each token that you have that matches that type. And in fact, at the beginning of the game, players will be getting an agenda, a card that is going to kind of give them a secret agenda. These are, the Sap-Sucking Satyrs Association or the Fey Firebombers Association. And each of these has a certain symbol that you're going to get points for. So these act just like the guilty pleasure cards, but they are secret. There's an advanced game where when you also score these, each of these will do something specific, and players will be drawing from a handful of cards that match them, and they're able to they're able to take 2 of these cards and play them over the course of the game. For example, here, when a bill passes, select a favor in that bill and take the minions listed on it, then discard. So the game is going to end when either all these favor tiles run out or when all the guilty pleasures run out. At that point, we do final scoring. Like I said, each favor worth a point. Each card that a player has, guilty pleasure or the agendas, is worth 1 point for each favor in your own pile. Just to be clear, these give you points for favors in your own pile. The secret agendas that you have will give you points for favors of that type in the other player's score piles. And then you simply add up all your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, interestingly enough, the box for this game is quite thin. There's I like this size box, but it's really thin, so it's easy to fit on the shelf. There is an upgrade available for the game with wooden minions for the pieces, but you really don't need them. I think the tokens are fine. In fact, the components for this game, the artwork is really good. I really get a kick out of the different guilty pleasures. We have obscure ogre art and Sprayomatic 3000 and pure white bunny scarf or Pan's bed and breakfast or bat skin trench coat. And the artwork is really well done. I really like the artwork from the players' factions to the different characters. Really good. The game just has it pops. Unfortunately, the game itself doesn't pop and then kind of fizzles. Now, part of this may be to why the game was made. When I read the designer notes, one of the designers said something to the effect of, hey, the government today in America is corrupt, and so I wrote a treatise on it, and I made this game to help teach, how corrupt governments are. We kind of know that. I don't know that a game about fantasy kingdoms is going to be like, oh, so the government is corrupt. Whatever. And this whole corrupt is kind of, are you teaching that is wrong? Because in this game, I'm like, I'm buying off votes. But anyhow, that being said, the game itself, I was hoping, the first time I played was with 4 players, and it kind of was a dud. And I thought, well, maybe it's the even number of players. So I tried it with 5, and no, still kind of a dud. And here's why. Votes are the most boring things ever. This whole game is about voting on these different bills. And so you go to vote, and it's like, hey, I'm voting for the bill. Why? Because I'm involved with it. Hey, I'm voting against it. Why? Because I'm not involved with it. Hey, look, we don't even have to vote. I mean, they have this roll card here where you can keep track of the votes. Big deal. Again, that doesn't really matter because it's almost kind of predestined who's going to win. I mean, there's close votes and all, but the fact is, and again, I haven't played with 7, so maybe with 7 it changes up more, but it's kind of saying something to the effect of, well, vote for me. Vote with me this time. I know you don't get anything out of it, but I'll give you something next time you need to vote. See, that's the only real currency you have. Any game where there's voting involved needs some sort of reason for other people to vote for you when they don't have a direct stake in something. So in this game, the winners of a vote get a lot of things. I mean, they get the tokens. Those are worth points. They get guilty pleasures, which can easily be worth points. So your best bet sometimes is just to stick down riders in everyone else's law and put those little tokens down, because they're going to vote yes or no. If they vote yes, you get benefits out of it. And if they vote no, well, you lose those. But if you spend a lot of effort taking control of different kingdoms, you can vote no on everyone else, but you're not getting any points yourself. I really felt like the elections here, I mean, for an election to work, or for this kind of this back and forth stuff, I need to say, hey, vote for me and I'll give you some cash. Well, there is no cash in the game. So the only thing I can do are future promises. You help me now, I'll help you later. And in this game, that doesn't really mean a lot. It's kind of just quid pro quo, help scratch my back, I'll scratch your back here, which is, again, how these things work, but it comes across as honestly boring. The game is not a bad game. I wasn't enraged when I played it. I just kept sitting there saying, when is something going to happen? When is something happen? And it's pretty fast, and then the game's over, and you go, oh, well, so-and-so won? Yeah, good job. And then there's the advanced game. An advanced game, first of all, makes each tile do something different, which is confusing because you have to keep looking up in a rule book. You can take things off other tiles or move tiles around. And then those action cards, which are kind of cool, helps differentiate the factions. But again, they don't feel advanced. It's just saying, hey, we added a couple special take that cards that this game has now. So unfortunately, I can't really recommend this one. I love the idea. I love the production and art of the game. It looks great. But when it comes down to it, it's just kind of a snooze fest. This is the kind of game that's really in my wheelhouse. Wheeling and negotiation and stuff. And I tried, right? I'm like, okay, we can negotiate here. Vote for me. Why? I don't know. I'll vote for you later. Okay, fine. Then later on, they have a much better option. I was lying. Betrayal. Again, it sounds like those things could happen in this game, but in reality, they don't. So, corrupted kingdoms. I guess it teaches us that government's corrupt, though, right? Right? Dice Tower Judgment, nice, but boring.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.